Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I have the pleasure of simplifying the marketing and the mindset so you, the chiropractor, can increase your impact, your income, and your enjoyment in practice too. Today's episode, I had the pleasure of talking with the wonderful Jenna Quentin. Jenna is a social media manager and a whole bunch more than that, who helps chiropractors increase the number of people who know us, like us, and trust us. And she has such a wonderful background that has her perfectly situated to be just amazing at this. Originally as a journalist, and then had some amazing experiences with herself and with her kids. She tells this story with a chiropractor where she's dedicated her life to helping chiropractors share their message. In this episode, we really get into the nitty-gritties, the tactical side of social media. We talk about what sort of content works best. How do we take one piece of content and turn it into multiple things? She had some fantastic suggestions with that. What sort of videos do you need to make, and how do you do your videos so they are natural and they have the reach? And speaking of reach, we talk about how do we measure the success of our social media. That and a whole bunch more. I think you're going to really love this episode. Let's go and talk with Jenna. Jenna, welcome to the Marketing Your Practice podcast. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Now, I'm going to say up front, this is round 2 for us, okay? So I'm going to do my best we have to be surprised at each other's jokes going forwards there too. So I had some recording issues with our first one. So thank you again for doing this. This is the second time, in fact, this is our second episode that we've done too. For the listeners that perhaps might not have caught our first episode, can you give them a brief background of what brings you to the wonderful work that you do now?
Yes. So I started out doing journalism, some children's writing, really just freelance writing for businesses and websites and magazines. And then it was really as chiropractic started to impact my family. I'd had my second baby and was just really struggling through various issues. One of them was that every time that I would sneeze, I would hold my head and my neck because I had so much neck and upper back pain that I just could not sneeze or pick up my baby. And when I saw how much of an impact chiropractic had on my life and then my function in my family, I became interested and started writing for my chiropractor, doing some blog posts for him in like 2014. But then it was really when my son was going through what we discovered were sensory processing issues. And when I understood the neurological impact that chiropractic was having on him, that I just became enthralled. And as much as I loved journalism, writing a county commission meeting about taxes and things in the community is interesting, but being able to tell families that there were natural answers and that there was hope for their children and them to live a vibrant, healthy life, I was like, this is what I want to focus in on and niche down on. So now I work with chiropractors.
And you work with us in several different ways because you create content for some chiropractors, and other chiropractors, you teach them how to create content. That's kind of right?
Yes. So on one side, there are marvelous doctors who just want it to be outsourced. And so they provide their photos and videos. We talk on the phone, and then I create it all custom for them. And that's a really wonderful way to expand their reach and really give them a megaphone on these platforms. And then on the other side, yes, a lot of times there are doctors who have wonderful teams in place who can just do such a good job of conveying to the people that they see every week what they do and putting it online as well.
So I want to pick your brain on behalf of our audience for nearly 10 years of experience. Let's jump into this. Given kind of the nuance of chiropractic, what are you finding is working best as far as content? What is getting the most engagement and reach and giving the best results for chiropractors?
Yes. So I know that everybody is going to say like, oh, you have to do reels. And I do think that video is a wonderful format to use. Also, though, what I see is just being in lots of places, really a multiple platform approach of knowing that videos are good and we can repurpose them on multiple platforms, but also informational infographics, where it is something that is just easy for their brains, like tired, overwhelmed brains, to just save that information. those are really valuable posts. Most of my posts that do the best are multiple images, those carousel posts that have lots of valuable information that people can save. But then at the same time, it's such a big impact to then maybe that was on, 5 or 6 or 7 slides. Maybe all of that information you could put into a blog post and just really expand it out and put studies and case studies and testimonials and stories and expand it out into a blog post or an email newsletter. And so I really think that while we realize, we want to post one video in one place and have it do phenomenal.
Yes.
And it might. But what the reality is, we might have to take that one idea and put it in multiple places over an amount of time. And that is really, not all of our eggs in one basket approach. But it's also great because then, like, I realize I have 4 children and all of them need something a little bit different. There are people who want to watch just videos. There are people who want just email newsletters. If we do different things, we can reach and help all kinds of learners in all kinds of spaces. And that's really what I'm about, more than just one video that goes viral that one time.
All right. Let's work together now and maybe give an example or previous work that you've done that somebody can use this for inspiration. So what might that infographic or that carousel, what are some of the topics that a family chiropractor who is subluxation based, what sort of information might they want to be sharing in that carousel?
Yes. So sometimes maybe it's something that's a little more seasonal around back to school or Mother's Day or something like that. But that can be a starting point. But then I would say I really love to have a notebook in the office of what are people actually talking about? What are people asking? So maybe you have, like my son, I'll use my family as an example, sensory processing and primitive reflex integration. Maybe those are things that parents haven't heard about. So maybe you want to do a video and you talk for 1 minute and you introduce the topic and say, this is neurological and chiropractic can help. So you do a video and then you make an infographic and it says maybe an eye-catching, curiosity-driven title that says things every parent needs to know about sensory processing disorder. And then the slides say, the first line might say signs, like, does your child do most of these or any of these? And then maybe explaining, because, as a young mom, I thought, oh, this is behavioral. And so then maybe going back through a little bit of anatomy. Now that we have caught their interest and they know that this is something that could affect them, then maybe going through anatomy and saying, this is how the brain and the nervous system are working. My son we were at the zoo and he had bumped his elbow and for an hour and a half would not be calmed. Just to where I was like, what is this? So maybe even then on the next slide, after you've gone through anatomy, giving an example and saying, it isn't a behavior. This is his nerves on his elbow are screaming, or the brain is interpreting it as screaming, something in one of those 2 lanes. And I would definitely do some kind of picture to show, like, the safety pin cycle, right? The 2 lanes, and saying somewhere along the way, we know that the elbow scrape is not a mortal injury. So why is the brain interpreting it like that? And then the next slide, I would say how that child was helped. And the last slide, I would say, just come in for an evaluation. Here's how we can help. Here's when we have our next event, our next lecture, whatever the last slide should be, that call to action saying, here's what you can actually do, and making it really, really easy for parents, really low key. Like, we're not diagnosing your child with something grave and serious. We're just wanting to help them through functioning well and functioning better.
Wonderful. And then with that too, so that same information that we put into that carousel, we could make that into a blog post that was kind of posted over on our website. And could we also, if we have patients like this that we're already looking after, could we go to them and ask some of their most pressing questions that they had in around sensory processing And then maybe we could do a live video answering those questions and inviting other people to come along to that also, yeah?
Yes, and I love that because especially with live videos, I feel like it's such an opportunity,
Mm,
especially if chiropractors really focus on chiropractic in their office. A live video answering those questions is a great moment to do a collaboration and say, this is the occupational therapist who we refer people to when
mm,
they need that next step in this direction, and we function well together. And doing that live with both of you, you tend to, when you're doing a collaborative video like that, kind of borrow each other's audiences
yes.
if there's a good overlap
Mm,
of interest.
yep. So let's talk about video just for a moment, because this still, I had a group coaching call this morning with my community influencer members and new clients coming in there. And understandably, I remember when I felt so overwhelmed with video. If we're creating that little 60 to 90-second video, can you go over, let's talk about how do we make that video look the way that it ought to? Which way should I be holding my phone? Is my phone enough? Do I need a microphone? Where should I be shooting my videos? Tell me all the things.
Yes. So on video, some of the things that I think just using your phone, absolutely. I just upgraded my phone. It can be worth it. If you really want to, have the memory and have the good camera, do keep your phone up to date. That is a helpful thing. I don't think you necessarily need a camera, but a clip-on lavalier, Bluetooth mic is very helpful. This was maybe $100 on Amazon, so not a giant investment, really. And then I think that the videos that I see do well are not stiff, are not terribly scripted. It is very interesting if you can do something interesting in the first couple of moments. If you can have a prop that you're holding up in those first few seconds. If you are walking in those first few seconds and then stop. If you jump in and out in those first few seconds. If you say something that might sound controversial in those first few seconds, like things you should do or things you shouldn't do. Like the sensory processing example, the one thing you must do for your child if you think they have sensory issues. That's going to get people to stop and maybe be like, whoa. And then clearly you don't want to be clickbait, but then following through on that promise of delivering value. I know one video mentor has said, 5 sentences. Can you keep your video to 5 sentences? And I think that's maybe a little short.
Mm,
I like to talk, so mine is probably going to be longer, but keeping it concise, I would say no more than 5 bullet points. And I have my handy whiteboard, and I just do a whiteboard of maybe 5 bullet points if
mm,
I really want to be doing an educational video. But sometimes that video can just be what we call B-roll,
mm,
where it is the child sitting up on or in the chair in the waiting room and giving the doctor a high five, you know, um, just showing the office culture. So we think that video needs to be this heavily scripted, like I'm wearing the appropriate clothing and I'm looking doctorly and my diplomas are in the background. And yes, do some of those that
mm.
are for education and authority, but sometimes it's just about showing the culture of your office. So, the how your staff is greeting the family as they walk in. Do 10 seconds of video on that and maybe put a quote with it. Or don't. Maybe put some music with it. So
Mm,
video can be a variety of things. I think video that's educational is one category, video that's inspiring, and then video that's just entertaining. I had a doctor who sent me a short video, and he came from a hallway in his office, ran up and said, "Your body's ability to heal is greater than anyone ever told you." And then he ran back. And we haven't posted it yet, but I'm sure that it will do phenomenal
mm.
because it was funny. And I
Yes.
think sometimes we do need to just do videos that we were feeling in a good mood. We just got adjusted. We're feeling the sun is shining, and we just do a funny video. And some of those are just really great for engagement, but really great for us too.
I think one of the things that's often missing, and I have to take this on board for myself and my content, is that it's social media. It's not just media. And it's easy to kind of show up as our professional business selves. So one of the clients who I worked with, in between because we were talking about kind of funny adjustment stories. And what Dr. Mick did is he actually had a film of him doing a handstand walk in between adjusting rooms. And the thing was, he was saying to the patients, you don't see this, but this is how I walk in between each adjustment room. And, the video's got thousands of views and loads of interactions, and it's just fun. Nobody's choosing Mick because of that, but it's one of the things that helps to build a relationship. And often I see chiropractors either going too far one way or the other. Either they're constantly just posting pictures of their breakfast and going for a walk of the dog, which might help me know, hey, that seems like a really nice person, I like them, but doesn't tell me how you can help me. Or the flip side of that, I get all this helpful education content, but I don't get to kind of build a relationship. What's your thoughts on that, and what do you see working?
What I see is that if we plan out our month, then we can kind of give ourselves enough structure to make sure we have a balance. Mm-hmm. Very often, even with my things, I think, man, have I posted anything personal lately? I have an invisible husband and children. And no, they don't need to be on my Instagram all the time. But when we make a plan and we can kind of see, even when all of our call to actions are just come get adjusted, those kind of selling posts. So knowing that we need to have a ratio where the largest amount, maybe a third, needs to just be immediate value. And so we can see that whether it is a quote that is inspiring them or that helpful education, but at least a third of it needs to be pure value. We're not asking them for anything. Like you said, it's social media. And then the rest of it can be for different reasons. I like to have a global idea of, like, what are we promoting this month? Like, do we have a lecture or an event that we're promoting this month? And that's what we're going to ask for. But on the other posts, we're going to do some reels for reach. We're going to do some carousel multi-image posts for saves and shares. We're going to have, one or two posts that are inspirational. We're going to have, I would really love, in a month of posting a couple, 3-4 times a week, a story every week, some kind of review testimonial every single week. So then in a month, maybe you post 2 personal things. Maybe you post 3. Maybe one of them is a holiday, and maybe one of them is a little bit more about chiropractic lifestyle and how you live that out. Like you said, whether it is walking the dog or your breakfast, there is a way to tie this. I always want to tie it back to chiropractic, back to something useful. So when I plan out a month, then I can see, oh, I'm a little, like you said, I'm a little short on humor this month, or I'm a little heavy on this, or I'm a little heavy on that. And it doesn't mean that we won't change things as they pop up through the month. If something comes up and we're like, oh, this is more interesting than the breakfast I was going to post, then that can easily be changed. But we give ourselves structure so that we can know that we have balance.
Can you share your thoughts on the minimum amount that would be ideal for a chiropractor to be posting, and then perhaps the optimal amount in terms of frequency?
Yes. So with everything, and it sounds like a cop-out answer, but it really isn't. With everything, I say test it with your audience. So what I see is minimum of 3 times a week. If you're posting less than that, it's just the algorithm isn't really sure that you care. And so then why would the algorithm care back? So minimum of 3 times a week for the major platforms like Instagram, Facebook. I will say YouTube, I do not work a lot with YouTube, but YouTube, one good video a week is definitely great for YouTube. For things like, I don't even know if we're still calling it Twitter at this point. So for text-based platforms such as Threads, or then what am I thinking? Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it now. Those really do want more frequency. So those posting daily, several times a day, think of it more as like texting your friend. And, if you only texted your friend once a week, what would the relationship be like versus if you texted more frequently? So text-based apps, I would say more frequently. Things like stories on Instagram, Facebook, anywhere where there's those 24-hour stories, those really do want you to post daily, and several times a day. So it kind of depends which part of the platform and which platform. And it depends on the size of your audience. I have a friend who has a Facebook page that has 1 million followers, and she posts budget things and deals. And so they post deals, 5, 6, 7, 20 times a day on Facebook. But that is because their audience is looking for deals and looking for it regularly. So it is the size of your audience matters, because if your audience is small and you don't give them a chance to see your content, then it's not going, the algorithm is going to think that they don't want to see it. So generally for Instagram and Facebook, having 24 hours in between posts is optimal. And again, that's for feed posts, not stories. Stories, keep posting all day. That's amazing. But yeah, so if you really wanted to grow, when I really want to grow, or I have a campaign coming up, then I do try to post once a day. And I will kind of vary the times of day to see, are people up in the morning lately, or are they up in the evening? So yeah, long answer to say, depends on the platform, depends on your audience, but at least 3 times a week, and probably no more than daily unless you have a massive active audience.
Do you think it matters, you touched on it before, what times we post? I know that, for instance, if I'm posting through the Meta Business Suite and the planner through there, it will tell me at what times my audience is most active. And I listen to that and I tend to use that. Do you think that matters and makes much of a difference?
So at different times, I've posted to 15 accounts at the same time. So I could really, and across 4 different time zones. So I could kind of test and see what was working best. I don't see a clear-cut rule on that. So it is still testing your own audience. Although I will say, whatever is evening time, during the week, people generally do better at posting after 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, when people have had a chance to get home, maybe get some dinner. And if you post it right before your peak time, then it is already there as they're logging on.
Yeah.
However, I don't think I'm always cautious about telling people when to post, because it's not going to be an astronomical leap in numbers generally.
Yes.
There might be a slight benefit, but I've also posted at really random times, like 2:30 in the afternoon, and things have done well. So it's one of those things that can be helpful, but I mostly don't want people to be obsessing about small details.
If a chiropractor is ready to commit, whether it be 3 times a week or 7 times a week, and they're wanting to know, hey, Jenna, what systems and tools can I use that will help to increase the efficiency and the effectiveness of our team being able to manage that, what would you suggest?
First, I always tell everybody a 15-minute monthly team meeting. And that is whether it is with your social media manager or your office manager or your assistant or your teenager who's doing your social media for you. You have to take at least 15 minutes a month to check in, to say, these are my goals. These are the videos that I'm going to shoot. This is when I'm going to shoot the videos. And I always want people to put a name and a date on every part of it. So I think a printed calendar. Most of us are still old school enough. I carry a notebook with me everywhere. And I officially, last night, I was telling my sister, like, if anything happens, you have to burn all of my notebooks. They say too much. There's too much there. But a printed notebook of your stories and your ideas, that the whole office knows where the notebook is, and that they can jot down the frequently asked questions, the stories, the quotes, the kid said the funniest thing. You write that down, you bring it to your team meeting, you have a printed calendar where then you just start filling it in with when and who is getting that picture of a pregnant mama, of when the doctor is going to shoot those videos, and just outsourcing it a little bit, even if the person who's doing it is yourself. Doing that, taking those 15 minutes to say, hey, what worked best? Somebody pull it up on your phone. What worked best last month? Okay, it was that video about this. So I'm going to shoot either another, let's do a graphic on that topic, or let's do another video that has that same kind of setup, that same kind of outline. So taking those 15 minutes, and I promise, if you work at it, you can get it down to 15 minutes and it won't take up your whole life. And then everybody knows how to batch it, whether it is, now I'm going to sit down and write my post for the month, or you do it the day of. You have a plan and you have a structure, and it's going to get done a lot more easily. And there are great tools. There's Asana, there's Trello, there's all of the project management tools that you can use. Honest, and they are wonderful, and that can be really great for a team. Google Docs and Dropbox are fairly important for assembling off of everybody's phone and device. But I think some of the just printed materials of, yes, we could put it on Trello, we could put it on Asana, we could put it on whatever, but just having an actual notebook where you can say, put it down in the yellow notebook, and they go and they do it, and then bring the yellow notebook. What did we talk about last July? Let's look back at that, because then it's all there.
Yes. I think there's a couple of things I just want to touch on that for our audience. Notice that when Jenna was saying that, she's just assuming that you're involving your team, okay? Trying to do this solo, except for the rare ones amongst you that just have such a deep love and passion for this. And I know there's some of you that just, it's not a problem for me. I love doing it. This brings me a great deal of joy. But trying to do this alone is a recipe for a disaster. And you have people around you, whether it be an uncle, an auntie, a nephew, or a niece, or CAs that can help you with this too. And that idea of planning too, the hardest way to come up with content is, I need to post at 12:30 and it's 12 o'clock now. What am I going to talk about? It just, my brain and most people's brains seem to go into a mush when that happens there too. Moving on from there, I've got a plan and I'm working forwards, and I'm a big fan of, what we measure is what matters. What time frames do I need to be giving myself to expect results? And to what are results? What should I be looking for to see that, because again, I see too many chiropractors just doing this blindly, not measuring, not knowing if it's working or not, but just knowing they should be doing it. So how much time should I allow, and how should I measure success with social media? Is it just appointments?
No. So I can't remember what I was reading. It was maybe a Dan Kennedy email. I don't remember, but it was just saying marketing is not sales. Marketing is awareness and consideration. So really, I know that we want social media to be this very direct, straight line. They saw my video, they booked an appointment. But what we actually want to realize is some of those people are like me, and I'm an impulse buyer, and I see it and I buy it, and that's just, I don't even think, and it's not great. But most people, what we're wanting to track on social media is that our awareness is growing, so our reach is growing, and more people are seeing that we exist, seeing what we are like, seeing what our culture is, getting an awareness of chiropractic. And so we track that through our reach going up, but also even just kind of keeping your ear to the ground, where all of a sudden the dentist is talking about having seen your video. And you're like, you didn't comment, you didn't message me, you didn't book an appointment, but all of a sudden you're at the dentist and they have seen your videos. So some of that awareness, and I do track that with reach on Instagram and Facebook, YouTube, wherever it might be, on emails, it's who's adding to your list more. But that kind of comes more down into the next layer of a funnel, where we're funneling people in. They have to know we exist, and then consideration. And so on social media or any kind of content marketing, Consideration is going to be that they took an action. So they liked it. That's the easiest, but they might have saved it. They might have shared it. Well, no, not shared it. I'll get to that in a minute. They might have saved it, or they might have commented. They're considering, or maybe they clicked a link, and they are learning more. So they are moving from just knowing you exist and kind of being interested, window shopping, to instead of window shopping, they actually opened the door and came in to look around the shop. So those are the details that I want to get into is link clicks and engagement, likes and saves and comments. And be aware, I say that with a little caveat, few people comment, fewer and fewer people comment. So we have to really work hard. If you want people to comment, we have to work a little bit harder. And then after that, what we're tracking is actual conversions where they signed up to come to your class or your lecture or your event. They downloaded the helpful, pediatric guide or the helpful, whatever guide on your website. Or they opted into your email newsletters because they want more information from you. So it's even a baby step away from actually getting an appointment, which is then another step in that conversion is that they've actually called you, they've actually come in. But if you kind of are following this journey, it's like from being aware of you, they like, know, and trust you so much more than that direct line of saw it and called.
Yes.
So that they are pre-qualifying themselves for your office and for your care, because some doctors, just all of our styles are going to be different, which is why it's so wonderful that all of us can be in the same fields, because my doctor in a suit and tie in Chicago is not the same as my barefoot in jeans doctor in Florida. And so those videos, instead of just saying chiropractic is wonderful, come get adjusted, and they come and they're like, this isn't the right fit for me. They've pre-qualified themselves from awareness to consideration to then actually conversion. And then the next step, which is really where we want everybody to be, is the chiropractic advocate. And so that's where they're sharing it. So every time I see that somebody has shared a social media post, I get excited, because that means they are being our advocates. Each one is a tiny little baby referral that they told their friends and family. And social media makes that so easy, because then all of your information is there. They don't have to say, Aunt Kathy, this is my chiropractor and his phone number is, and this is his address, and his front desk lady's name is. All of that information is already on your page. They just had to click share.
Yeah.
And then that's also with reviews and things. So I see reviews as that person has become a chiropractic advocate.
Yeah, I love it. So I want to encourage everybody to check out, if on your Instagram account, when you're on your phone, is to have a look at just the insights. So it's at your profile underneath that, and have a play around, and you'll find those things that Jenna was talking about: engagement, how people interacting with you, and reach. And watch, you can see a trend of what's happening. You can put different dates in through there, what's happened over the last 12 months, the last week. And are you reaching new people? And you want to dive in a little bit deeper also to see, I'm reaching maybe 10,000 people this last month, but you want to check out where they are, because if you're here in Australia and I've reached 10,000 people in Chicago, it's impressive on one side of things, but those people aren't probably going to come and see you for an adjustment, to check that too. And on your Facebook page, go to your page, and then over to the left-hand side, there's insights through there also that you'll be able to get this data. So popping in and have a looking at that, I think is really important. I want to kind of touch on that attribution thing that you talked about too, because I liked what you said about that. And really, I think we both share a good friend in Tony Ebel, and at his practice, when they're asking people, because, we say, how did you hear about our practice? And they might say, look, my good friend Jenna referred me in there. We wrongly think that that you are the primary reason that they come in there. But Tony started asking, and we now do this also, did you look at any of our socials? And they'll go, absolutely. We went to your website, we watched some videos, and I checked out Google reviews. Very rarely nowadays, and we do a good job in our practice, very rarely do we have a patient who comes in directly from Instagram. But we have loads that do all those things, because that's what we do nowadays. I'm going to buy a car, I'm going to watch some YouTube clips, I'm going to ask my buddy who's got that car, I'm going to get online and do some searching. all of these things are important for building the relationship as well. Jenna, when you're starting to work with people, what are some of the common misconceptions that chiropractors have about social media that might be getting in the way of them having success?
I think a lot of times they start with just telling me, I'm talking to you because I hate social media. It's so toxic and I don't like doing it. And they just start from a very negative place. And they just, it kind of in some ways makes me think like, guys, I'm not a special kind of fairy that is immune to the toxicity that is on social media.
Yeah.
you know so I'm not going to be able to, I can't just pixie dust that away. And so that misconception that I just have something special that they don't, and for me to turn it back to them a little bit to say, your videos are going to be wonderful because you are in them, and I edit them a little bit. I'm not making giant changes or filters or just to empower them that what they have to say and what they do in their office is valuable and important, and that their audience needs them. And so yes, I always try to turn it back to more of a yeah, just let's have fun with it. My dad used to say that all the time. And I never understood it when he said it, because it would be like, oh my gosh, I have a test, I have something big. And he would go, just have fun with it. Um, but isn't that what we need to do, especially with social media? We need the numbers, we need the analytics, we need the logical. God gave us two sides of our brain to be artistic and logical. And so that's the same thing for our social media. And so a lot of times when people come, I have to tell them, we're going to have fun with it. Let's try and have fun with it. And let's be patient. You had asked before, I ask people to work with me a minimum of 6 months. I really want more like 12 months before we see traction. And traction is just such a funny word too, to be like, well, what are we going to get? We want your views to go up. We want your engagement to go up. I'm not really interested in vanity metrics of, we're going to get 1 million followers. Like you said, if they're not in our local area, you're in a city of 15,000 people, where are the 1 million people going to come from? So that curiosity and that patience, just patience, like give it time and understand that this is not, we can direct message people and, see like, I notice you've been, watching my videos lately. Can we help with anything? How are you doing? You can, but it's so tricky. We're not doing direct cold emails. We're not doing direct sales. So, I had one doctor who worked with me for, I don't know, less than 90 days. And he was like, I just am not seeing any traction. And so then we moved to me helping his assistant to do it, because that was a better fit, because we're playing a long game. People think it's funny, but I often say, how long does it take to get results from social media? How long does it take for somebody to propose? It is relationship building. And if we want long-term wellness and long-term patients who, ripple their health, it ripples out to their kids and their grandparents and their families and their neighbors and the coach on their kids' soccer team. If we want that, then it's going to take time and effort to put in that relationship. So I ask, where do you want to be in a year? Where do you want your social media accounts to be in a year? Will it have grown to 1 million? I doubt it. But will your impact have grown? Yes, absolutely.
Yep. I think, simply in an email newsletter I put out last week, I was talking around the topic of there's a direct relationship between awareness and practice growth, and business growth for that matter too. People have to know you before they can come in, and social media should be one of the tools that you're doing to make that happen. You've got an exciting new program, which you have released either now or soon, to really help chiropractors with this. Can you tell us a little bit about how you can help chiropractors have more people know them, like them, and trust them?
Yes. So it is a training program, probably more for a chiropractic assistant or a family member who you have helping. I think it is, if it is a, solopreneur doctor who wants to do it, it would be helpful because what it is a video course with a manual. So it is, it's hefty, but it has all of the bullet points of the videos going over short lessons, 5 to 10 minutes of all of a lot of the things we've talked about, from adjusting your mindset, adjusting your Instagram, adjusting your Facebook, adjusting your website. So it's a collaboration with a website designer. So she really brings in the side of, once we've gotten their attention on social media, what's next? So then, because we're not all graphic designers. It feels like, the world expects us in 2023 to be excellent marketers, excellent chiropractors, be with our family all the time, and be a graphic designer. So I didn't want anybody to do that. So I have my graphic designer who has built up a library of graphic designs and templates so that they are ready to download, ready to use. And then we coach through the month. So we have a monthly call to say, what do you need more help with? What's changed? And a bunch of tutorials in with the video course as well. So videos, printed materials, and a calendar. Because like I said, it's so helpful to just have something actually printed and on paper. So I provide that. So you have your 2024 all ready and printed up.
I like your metaphor with this of like the brownie mix. Sometimes, some of you who are gifted can make brownies completely from scratch. And some of you, like me, want to just go and buy the brownies. But there's a real spot in the middle there for a brownie mix, which is a hybrid between the two. And this fits really beautifully inside of, let me get the ingredients. It's going to be fast for you to implement, but I can shortcut it for you as well. And is this open for enrollment now, or?
It is.
Yeah. Great.
Yes, we just opened, so it's all really exciting. And yes, because that was something I've done so many, I've purchased so many digital courses and things that it's so frustrating then that you get this beautiful course and it's so helpful on whatever topic you want, but then you're like, I don't have ink in my printer to print everything. And so then you never print the beautiful things that they provide. I don't know if anybody has ever done that, but I definitely have. And so part of it is that I have all the printed materials that I mail to doctors, so that it really is not just online, even though it is about digital marketing. It is, I wanted to bring a piece of like actual reality. And I think it is so helpful too when you have team members to, yes, like I've said before, have something concrete that it is, we're going to pencil in on this calendar. Jenna said we're going to do it on this day. We're going to move it around. It's so easy to just, you have your pen and you write it down. So having that printed, you don't even have to have ink in your printer. You just have to open your mailbox.
Yeah, I love it, Jenna. I'm really am such a huge fan. I think you come from a journalistic background and from somebody who's a chiropractic advocate and patient. You bridge such a really lovely gap to be able to help us as chiropractors have more people reach out. And I want to encourage our audience, if you have enjoyed this episode, then two things. Along with this episode will be the link to Jenna's socials. Please follow her there. And if there is an inkling for you with this too, please check out Jenna's program. I think you'll be absolutely thrilled with it. She's the real deal as well. And I look forward to, I think this is going to just fit in such a neat little spot for us as chiropractors too, Jenna. So thank you for helping us save so many lives. I know because of the work that you do, there are a lot of families that are happier and healthier too. And I look forward to us coming back perhaps for a round 3 sometime in the future.
Well, thank you. My pleasure.
All right. See you soon.
All righty. Excellent. Yes. My husband was like, we'll go to Australia sometime, right? And I was like,
well,
yes. I mean, if anywhere that we know a chiropractor is, great for a vacation, right?
You've got a tour guide, and as long as you catch up with the chiropractor when you're there, it's probably a tax-deductible trip. So makes perfect sense there too. Thanks for everything, Jenna. Good luck with the launch of your program. See you soon.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.